Finest podcast, a member of the Field of 68 Media Network. I'm your host, and I'm your friend, Jeff Greer. Happy to be back with you this week. We've started a new year, so happy new year to everyone. And with that, we're getting into the thick of ACC play for Louisville. They are 8-1 as of this recording. And I'm very excited to bring you this week's episode. I got a great guest, a guy I always liked to catch after games when I was covering the team, and he was on the team, and that's Ryan McMahon, who, as we joke about, spent quite a few years at Louisville, 5 years, but had a great career, and always so insightful, always just a really good guy to talk to about basketball and life in general. So really enjoyed that interview, and I hope you guys do too. Before we get to the interview with Ryan, I do want to make sure that I remind you, I know you guys probably fast forward past this, but don't wait, stop. Rate and review us wherever you get your podcast, whether that's Apple or Spotify or whatever. That is huge for us to continue to bring you more and more content, to expand, to do all of the things that I think will make Field of 68 even greater than it already is. It's off to such a hot start. As I remind you guys each week, we do have podcasts that you'd also be interested for other ACC teams. We've got a Kentucky and Indiana podcast, of course. We are in the cradle of college basketball after all. Sorry, Tobacco Road, but we all know that that's true. Highly recommend all of those podcasts. There's a bunch of ACC teams. And then the national guys, Robbie Hummel, Jeff Goodman, Rob Doster, Deshaun Butler, John Fanta. They do a great job. Chrissy Scott. There's just so many different people putting together great podcasts as part of our network. So make sure you go out, do your research, find us, subscribe, download our episodes, rate and review them. And one other thing, go find us on YouTube. There's actually a breakdown on there that I did last week of David Johnson and his assists, turnovers, and some of the areas where he has improved a lot, what makes him so good, but also an area where I think he can improve a little bit. And from my conversation both with Ryan this week and with Dino Gaudio last week, I've gotten the sense that we all kind of have the same hunch that of where things are going with him and where he can improve. So he's having himself a heck of a season. I've been so impressed with Louisville so far outside of the Wisconsin game, mostly because I wasn't sure what to make of Louisville's roster. With Malik Williams out, I thought that the lack of veteran leadership, I should say, with Malik Williams and Charles Minlin out, that's a lot to put on Carlik Jones. And he's done a really nice job, I think, of organizing the team. Clearly, everything has been put in his and David Johnson's hands. They've dealt with it pretty well. I still obviously think there's some ironing out to do between the two of them, but they have played very, very well to start this season. And it has required, because of the injuries previously, including Sam Williamson and Josh Nickelberry, some guys to really step up to the occasion, particularly Dre Davis, Quinn Slazinski. Jalen Withers has had a really strong start to his first official season playing college basketball. And I just think Louisville defensively looks really good. The offensive side of the ball, the efficiency will get there. They shot it better against Boston College. I would assume going forward that the shooting will continue to improve. Charles Minlin is going to give them a really interesting option. I don't know if he'll come off the bench. I don't know if he'll be in the starting lineup. Really good pick and roll handler, defender, really good scorer around the basket. He's kind of an undersized off guard, really, who or undersized, like power forward type, who plays as an off guard, I should say. He's a good scorer around the basket. He will shoot it a little bit from outside, but where he does most of his damage, offensive and defensive glass, defending in the paint, defending in pick and roll situations, and then scoring around the basket. So he's going to give Louisville a different dimension in the same way that Josh Nickelberry coming back has given them another shooting option, a good spot-up guy, and a really good pick-and-roll handler, defender as well, good perimeter defender. So Louisville is a really interesting team. You keep hearing people talk about when they get healthy. They're pretty close to being healthy. Now, Malik Williams, of course, we don't know when he's going to come back. It could be early February. It could be late February. We've encroached on or arrived at the 8-week threshold that Chris Mack talked about. when he does come back, the ability to see over the top and direct people and just know situations and have experience in Mac's system, invaluable, absolutely invaluable. And anyone who tells you otherwise is doesn't know what they're talking about. Experience matters at the college level. You have to have at least one or two guys, not just who have been around the block and have played, but have been in the program or played for the coach who is coaching the current team. That helps so much. And I do think that having Malik Williams back, whenever that is going to be a big, big plus for Louisville. And hopefully for his sake, he can get back. I'm sure he's itching to play. He's had a challenging run over the last few years, both with injuries and stuff that had nothing to do with him and the players on the team that he was on, in terms of all the stuff they've had to deal with at Louisville. And the irony of that is when I talked to Malik in our very first inaugural episode, he said the only other guy who may have experienced a little bit more of that was Ryan McMahon. So we're going to talk to Ryan about his career, what he thinks now watching the team, what he thinks of some of the guys on the team, but also some reminiscing. Why not? And I'm interested to get his thoughts on all of those subjects. So please enjoy this episode. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe to our Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get it, and make sure you rate and review the podcast. Enjoy this episode of Floyd Street's Finest, or at least the continuation of it, with Ryan McMahon. All right, I'm thrilled to bring into Floyd Street's Finest, Ryan McMahon, the great Ryan McMahon. I feel like I've known you forever. It's been a long time, but how you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm doing great. Happy to be here.
Well, we're so thrilled to have you here and a chance to talk a little bit about Louisville. Obviously, a program you are very familiar with. And I've spent many a day learning about the program here as you moved up from Florida. What was your first true okay, I'm at a blue blood, diehard basketball program moment? Do you remember?
It's probably as soon as I committed. Just how many fans and people that supported Louisville started following me on social medias and DMing me and just reaching out to me and congratulating me. It was just like a overwhelming wave of, support. And I think that was the first time I experienced it. And then first time I feel like I experienced it in person was probably my freshman year at a football game, walking around the tailgate with Donovan Ray and Dang Adele and just, people knowing who we were, or maybe even a baseball game before that. That's when the first time I really experienced it in the flesh.
I was going to say, you might have been able to stay incognito, but when you got a 6'10" dude walking around with you, you got no chance.
It's nice. I mean, it was definitely nice being the short guy because if I was alone, I wouldn't get noticed too often. And when I was a freshman, I loved it. I wanted people to notice me. And then by the time I was a senior, I just kind of wanted to go incognito. I'd try to keep my hood up, and as long as I wasn't with a few of my teammates, I could usually do it pretty well.
Yeah. Well, I think the last time I saw you, and for the real ones out there who know, it's still truly Nancy's Bagels, but I think the last time I actually saw you was Payne Street Bagel House or Bake House or whatever it's called. So I missed your senior, your fifth season, your redshirt senior year. And have you had much of a chance to really reflect back on what that final year was like? I realize obviously COVID wiping out the NCAA tournament sucks for everyone who was involved, hoping to go to the tournament. But what was that, I guess, experience like, and how have you thought about it now in those terms?
Well, to answer your question, I mean, I've had ample amount of time to reflect on it, given the situation of our country and just quarantine and things like that. I feel like I've had almost too much time to reflect about it. So I've tried to keep myself busy doing a bunch of different things. And now that I've started working, I've been able to kind of put it in my rear view mirror and have some closure with it all. But it was definitely just an epitome of how my entire career went, with all the adversity we had hit. with you know, the school and the scandals and stuff like that, and then the coaching changes, all that different type of adversity. I felt like I was finally going to get a normal year, and God said, no, 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 sir. Let me give you a little bit more adversity. And but reflecting back on the year, I just remember how special it was. Number one team in the country for a little while. We had one of our best teams there. I felt like the entire time I was there, and the fact that I actually got to contribute as a substantial role in that team was just a blessing. And it just felt like all my hard work from all the adversity I'd hit on a personal level when I first got there, with adjusting to a blue blood school, not just the college level, and just trying to grind and get through that change from a high school level to a college level. It just kind of all came to fruition. And man, I would have liked to have seen how far we could have gotten that tournament, just because I feel like we had such a special team with a lot of firepower. But you know, what can I say? It's just it's just a tough way for it to end.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I was talking to Malik Williams a while ago. I had him on, and I said to him, I was like, outside of Ryan McMahon, you have experienced the most in your career with his injuries and everything, but you had the extra. I mean, you've got 3 coaches that you've played for and dealt with all that. What would you say? I've always been so curious about your thoughts on this. So give me the breakdown. What are the primary characteristic differences between Chris Mack, David Padgett, Rick Pitino that you would tell people, like at a party or something?
You said from a personality standpoint?
Yeah, like as a coach's personality, what are the differences between the 3?
Well, I'll start by saying what they all have in common, and that is just an incredible work ethic. I mean, obviously, Coach Pitino is where he is today and is a Hall of Fame coach because of how hard he's worked and how much he's dedicated his life to the game and studying it and learning it and failing at it to then eventually succeed at it. And then on top of that, David Padgett, when he played at Louisville, they ran the entire offense through him. He was an extension of the coach on the court. He knew Coach P's system like the back of his hand, which is a big reason we wanted him to stay and be our coaches, because he wasn't going to change anything. And then Coach Mack, I mean, he's no different than them in terms of his dedication to studying the game, learning from film, learning from his mistakes, what he should have done better, what he could have done better. I mean, after every game, I see him watching film just over and over and over again, just trying to learn. And that's why I know he's going to be an incredible coach. But in terms of a personality difference, I think they're just different people. Coach Padgett, I probably had the most interesting relationship with, in terms of I saw him as a friend, because when I first came in, he was on the scout team with me, you know, like he knew what I was going to do on the court because we had played all the time when I was redshirting together. He was usually our 5-man on the scout team. So we had a different relationship. And then Coach Pitino, I mean, he was this Hall of Fame coach that almost had this God complex to him, because I had just seen him as a god in basketball for so long. And I was just this young freshman trying to find my way. And I never really got to build up that extensive relationship with him, because I was redshirting my first year, and then I played very limited minutes my second year. And then obviously Coach Mack, I never really started from that beginning with him, because it was kind of in the peak of my college career right when he came in. But I loved the way Coach Mack was just a player's coach, and the way he could still expect so much out of his players while still building a very personal relationship with them. And I'm sure I would have had that more with Coach Pitino as my career progressed with him. And obviously I already had it with Coach Padgett.
Yeah. Well, what an interesting mix of guys. And obviously, as you would get in any basketball program or any athletics program, you're going to have so many different personalities and people that you work with over the years, and just
Mhm.
thinking of all the different point guards that you played alongside, like Kristen Cunningham. I mean, there's just this long list, Quentin Snyder, of guys, and they all have different personalities. It's always
Yeah.
fascinating from my vantage point, trying to watch how you guys would interact and
Mhm.
try to report on it as best I could. Well, let's talk about the team that Louisville has now. I know you know a bunch of the guys. You've played alongside pretty much half the team, but there is also a whole influx of new guys. What have your impressions been so far of this group?
I think my first impression of them is I just feel like Coach Mack loves them because of how tough I perceive them to be. Um, I mean, they grit and they grind for every win, for every possession, every play. Um, I think they are one of the better defensive teams in the country. I mean, of course, some of the younger guys are going to have lapses, but the way they scrap on defense and rebound as a team is just like, it's really fun to watch. There's a lot of people saying they might not have as much offensive firepower as us, but with where they may lack there, I feel like they make up for on the defensive end, and especially on the rebounding, with both offensively and defensively. I can just tell it's an emphasis in practice because of the way I see every single one of those guys go crash the glass. And when you have big and athletic guards like David Johnson or guys like Carleek, like you can kind of get away with that because they're 6'5", and then obviously um, I'm sure transition defense has also been a big point of emphasis because when you have a bunch of guys crashing the glass, getting your butt back is of the utmost importance. So I would say the main thing I've taken away is just how tough they are, both on the offensive and defensive end.
So, as someone who played in Mac's system, you would know this as well as anyone. My opinion has been that this team, this group, and it's because it's so young, this is why this makes sense. Matt comes in, he's obviously taking over a team that has a bunch of guys who have already been in the program. This
Mm-hmm.
team feels truly like, I know Malik is still the holdover, but truly the way that he has recruited his teams over his entire career, this team feels like roster wise, it fits what he wants to do, especially with the
Mm-hmm.
pack line, like having
Definitely.
pretty much everyone other than Carleek Jones is 6'5" or bigger, or 6'4" or bigger with long arms. How do
Mm-hmm.
you think that style, that those attributes of the longer, more athletic guys, especially at guard, helps in that hybrid pack line defense that he likes to coach?
I mean, it helps so much when you are packed in like that. Um, Having longer and more athletic guys, you can just you don't have to pack it in as much. You can still be packed in, but if instead of packed in this much, you're packed in this much because of that length and that athleticism that you can get away with, your pack line is almost extended that much further. Even though the pack line isn't extended, with their length and their athleticism, it kind of is extended.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like when you have smaller guards like me or like Fresh in the Past or Darius, um, when you're in that pack line and your sole responsibility is to help the guy that possibly could be getting beaten and get back out to your defender, it's harder on guys like us, especially at the ACC level, to contest shots. Especially with guards in the ACC, they can kind of shoot over smaller guards. Whereas when you have guys like David Johnson, he might not have to help as much, or he can get back to his guy earlier and
Mm-hmm.
contest the shot at a very high level. So, I mean, basketball in general, more height and more athleticism is always going to help you.
Absolutely. Well, the one guy we keep talking about, and rightfully so, is David Johnson. And
Mm-hmm.
I've been so impressed with him this year. I know he had so many highlight moments last year. The Duke game obviously comes to mind. I
Mm-hmm.
think the most interesting thing about him last year was how he tried to counter the counter. And
Yeah.
obviously in the offseason, he worked a lot on his jump shot, which has paid off this year. It
Mm-hmm.
seems like maybe the final step is cutting down on the turnovers, slowing down, making decisions a little bit more with a little bit more confidence. But from your vantage point, you watched him from coming in from high school to now. what impresses you about him? What stands out about David Johnson and what you learned from being alongside him?
Well, I mean, so much impresses me, but I think the biggest thing that I've seen that I've been impressed with was last year. I feel like things came a lot easier to him because of the shooters we had on the court. It extended the floor so much that he was able to slash and get to the rim almost at ease because he was 6'5". He's an athletic freak. And I mean, he's a very heady basketball player.
Mm.
So now he's on a team that doesn't have as many shooters. So the floor can be a little bit more packed in, but he's improved his jump shot. He has improved his decision making, despite some of the turnovers, which he's going to continue to learn and work through as he grows and watches more film with the coaches and just learns the system better. But the transition from how he's been able to use his same game while also growing in it has just been very impressive. He seems like the same player that's grown a lot, but he doesn't have necessarily the luxury of having like 4 shooters on the court at the same time, and he can just take his guy one-on-one and get to the rim. He's figuring out how to score and make decisions at a high level in a much more difficult way, which is just, I mean, it's only going to get easier for him when he gets to the next level. And there are a bunch of shooters out there, and the floor is extended, and the lane is extended. He's got unbelievable potential.
Yeah, the sky is a limit. I hate to use the cliche, but that feels like
Mhm.
the case with him. And he's he's so smart, not just as a
Yeah,
player, but he's just a smart guy in general.
exactly. And I
Um,
feel like sometimes he's almost too smart for his own good. He's like almost one step ahead of the defense instead of just kind of reading and reacting. I feel like sometimes that's the only reason he gets into trouble is he's almost too smart for his own good.
yeah.
But I mean, like I said, he's going to learn to get through that. I mean, I know NBA scouts aren't worried about that at all. It's a pretty common theme with young point guards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so funny if you go back and actually watch the games and slow it down to his assists or turnover situations. You can, like, if you slap the pause button like before any of the action happens,
Mm-hmm.
you can see where, like, how his brain is working and how he's thinking, and
Definitely.
it's fascinating. I mean,
Yeah.
he's got great court vision, good passes. He's got all these different ways that he can deliver passes that
See
for a
over the
sophomore.
defense. He
Yeah,
delivers
yeah.
passes on the dot.
Mm-hmm.
He's strong enough and long enough to deliver passes across the court on the money. Like he has a great vision and anticipation. It's just, and I know he was struggling a little bit in the preseason, trying to kind of find his role on this new team, and it's so good to see him, prospering now, and hopefully it continues throughout the rest of the season as he's grown so much as a player.
Tell me about the attributes that Malik Williams brings, because we don't know quite when he'll be back yet. I think it's probably sometime in February, but
Mm-hmm.
obviously getting an all ACC defensive type player back and a guy who's been in the system, like what does that do to Louisville when he's back?
I mean, it can only help. It can only improve the team. He brings the intangibles to the game, both on and off the court. I mean, he's an everyday guy. He's a leader. And even last year when he was going through some injuries, whenever he was on the court, whether it was in practice or in the game, you could just tell the whole vibe changed. Everybody was more locked in. Everybody was held that much more accountable. And I know he still tries to do that from the sidelines, but you can only do so much. And when he's on the court, he's just going to bring in a completely different level, even higher level of toughness and to this team. And I can't wait to see it. Hopefully he has a speedy recovery and he can get back sooner than anticipated.
Now, the last thing I'll ask you then about this team is there a non-David Johnson sophomore who, in your eyes, you're like really excited to see how the rest, or I should say second year player, because Jalen Withers is included in that group.
Mm-hmm.
But is there a guy who you're like really interested to see how the rest of their season plays out after getting a chance to work out with them so much last year?
I mean, I feel like I can't single one guy out.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen's just an athlete that has an unbelievable motor. And as he continues to grow his basketball IQ for the game, he's only going to get better and better. All of his skills and his talent are there. You got Josh that just is bred to score. He just knows how to score. And as he continues to get better and come back from his injury and get adjusted to the speed and length and athleticism of this level, like he's going to become a monster. Obviously, Sam's a McDonald's All-American. I mean, he's also bred to score. As he continues to get more comfortable in this system and gain more confidence, he's only going to do better. And then, Q Slaz, I can see him having an incredible college career. I mean, he's so versatile. He's one of the highest basketball IQs on the team. He's a system type of guy, a lot like me. It takes him a while, but as soon as he can figure it out and gain confidence year in and year out, he's going to have such a great career. I mean, I can continue to go down the list. They're just such a solid class that learned, and they did so well last year, not taking a back seat, but listening to us older guys and watching how hard we worked and all the preparation and things that went into winning at a high level. And it was the perfect, upperclassmen, lowerclassmen group that we meshed so well together. And I mean, that group, as they continue to grow in their college careers, they're only going to be better and better.
Is Slazinski as entertaining behind the scenes as he is publicly? That dude, he's got a lot of energy. He's a chatterbox.
Clown. He is so funny. Every time I'm around him, I'm laughing. I'm having a good time. He reminds me a lot of my little brother. So I always, enjoy spending my time with him. I treat him like a younger brother. I'm always talking to him. But yeah, he is just as entertaining as he seems.
All right, so I got a couple rapid fire ones for you here, and then I'll let you go.
All right.
This was a hot topic in the off season. Did you at any point consider a sixth year at Louisville?
No, I did not. If they granted us another year, I would have had to sit down and have a conversation with my family and especially my girlfriend. I don't know. That would have been crazy. I was already getting all the grief from people all around the country. How is Ryan McMahon still in college? How is he still playing? I can't imagine doing another year. All the stuff. I would have been every game. I would have heard something. So, not that that's the reason. I was ready.
Yeah, I hear you. And I will warn you now. On my 30th birthday, before I turned 30, I had never had. All my injuries were the typical sports injuries, whatever. I woke up on my 30th birthday and out of nowhere, my knees started just killing me. And it has not gone away in 4 years, man. It's coming for you. You can't escape it.
I'm not looking forward to it. I am not. But 5 years of college basketball, it's probably inevitable that it's going to happen.
Yeah. Very true. Okay. Next one. Do you still have your Dick Vitale alarm clock?
No, I think that broke after a few years.
Okay.
But I wish I did.
That's a hot item, man. You could sell that on eBay for.
Yeah, it was like a full court, or maybe it was like a half court, and it had like a shot clock. And yeah, it was a pretty nice alarm clock.
Yeah. Did that whole storyline ever get annoying to you, or was it just kind of like part of your story?
It didn't get annoying that it kept getting brought up, because I know it's like a really cool story and everything like that. And some people that are diehard Louisville fans have probably heard it a million times, but there's still people that tune into the game that have never heard it before. And it's an easy thing for sports announcers or broadcasters to talk about. So it's not the part that they kept talking about it that annoyed me. It's how like blown out of proportion it got. It got to the point where we were like neighbors and we were barbecuing when we were growing up together, and like that wasn't our relationship at all. So like as long as the story was actually told straight, I didn't care.
Yeah. He's a great dude. I really like. I can't believe incredible. I just called Dick Vitale a dude, but he's a great guy. Yeah.
He's one of the most selfless people I've ever met in my entire life, with probably the sharpest memory too. That guy, he can tell you anything about anyone at any time in his entire life, and with details like it's nothing.
Yeah.
But what he does for childhood cancer and so many other things in the community down in Florida and just the community around the nation is just unbelievable.
Absolutely. All right. Last two.
All right.
First one is if you laced him up right now, and for our audience, just so they know, Ryan came from a lift to talk to me. So you're still staying in shape. Much respect. You lace him up tomorrow in the Virginia Tech game. Like, how much would you give the Hokies? Do you think you could play? Like, how do you feel that would go?
Well, I would have to get up shots tonight.
How many shots?
At least like 150. If I shot too many, like I would probably get sore because I haven't been getting on my reps like I usually do. But if I could get up 150, 200 shots, you could put me in the game and I could knock down a couple shots. It would be the conditioning. You know, there's no better way to get in shape for basketball other than to play basketball. And I mean, I haven't been able to play basketball at that high of a level consistently like I used to. So playing on both ends of the court would be tough. So, you know, I would be so concerned about the defensive end and making sure I don't get beat there that I would probably have no legs on the other end. So I might be throwing up some bricks, but shoot, if you gave me like a week or two, I think I'd be all right.
Okay. Well, I'm really proud of myself because 3 summers ago, this guy who's like 6'3", and you know me, you've been around me. I'm not the tallest person on the planet.
Yeah, you're like 6'4", 6'5".
Yeah, it's funny. I was in high school. I was listed at 6 foot on the program. It's like the funniest thing. Very, very generous.
Very generous.
So my friend who's like 6'3", I said, I played in high school. I played AAU and stuff. I played basketball. And he's like, no, you suck. Like, get out of here. And he challenged me in front of all of our friends to a one-on-one game. And it got delayed like 3 weeks. So I had enough time to go over to Wagner and shoot on their little hoop outside. And I toasted him in front of his wife and all of our friends. Nice. I absolutely crushed him. But that's the thing. You need like a couple weeks to get yourself really true. Not that our levels are the same, but nevertheless, it's important.
Definitely. It's tough to get in basketball shape without playing basketball. Like I remember when I got done with season and then I trained for that TBT tournament, I was like getting back in shape in the gym 5-6 times a week, working on ball handling, shooting, you know, all different types of training. And I didn't want to play in like a pickup game or any sort of like up and down game until, you know, I had my legs under me and I felt confident in my skills again. And that took about 2 weeks. But even that first pickup game, like I was winded. My legs weren't under me. It felt weird being out there and playing at game speed again. It takes time, and the only way to get in shape for basketball is playing basketball.
Yeah. All right. Last one. Your all-time favorite. I know he's your guy. Your all-time favorite go-to Donovan Mitchell story. You're at a party, you're in the corner, somebody says, hey, what's your favorite Donovan Mitchell story? What do you wheel out?
My all-time favorite story. You got anything? Man, there's a lot. I have a lot, but there's some that I don't want to tell.
That's okay. That's what friends are for. I'm impressed that you've got that restraint.
I would just say it's not really a story, but I just really enjoyed his and I's time from our freshman year to our sophomore year. That summer, we spent unlimited hours in the gym, like getting better together and training and working on our games. I was determined to prove to everybody that I could play at this level, that I wasn't just, here because of Dick Vitale. And, I try to convince people that I shouldn't have been redshirted, any chip on my shoulder that I could have had. And obviously he had goals of making it to the league. And we grinded that entire summer, that 2.5 months, 3 months through lifting, through conditioning. We were there on nights shooting in the gym sometimes we'd just be so tired. We'd just be sitting in there. That entire summer was just such a good bonding time that him and I had. And that was really when we solidified how good of friends we were. But yeah, I'll go with that story because it's the most PG.
Is he as truly as good at Rock Band at the drums on Rock Band as people say he is?
Yeah, he's really good. He's got a lot of rhythm. Whenever we played Rock Band in the winter and stuff, just to stay occupied when everybody else was off campus during winter break, and we would be in Dylan Avar and I's dorm room. He was always wanting to play the drums. Everybody else wanted to play guitar or like sing or whatever. He wanted to play the drums, and he's got a lot of rhythm. He's always banging pencils on the desk in class or doing something. So he's a very, very good drummer.
Well, the rumor was always that Ryan McMahon was the Bieber of the team. So I don't know if you live up to that reputation.
I was the Bieber of our team because nobody else could sing. So they heard someone that could at least carry a tune, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, he's so good at singing." I'm not good.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, when this is all over, I think I'd like to see you at a Kiko's on Bardstown Road. We'll see if you can
karaoke night or something.
Yeah, I love it. All right, man. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate I love chatting with you. So it's great to catch up and appreciate your insights and your storytelling as always.
Thanks for having me, man. It was great catching up. Hope all is well.